Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Consciousness Review. I'm Miriam Knight, and our very special guest today is Barbara Marx Hubbard, a prolific author, visionary, social innovator, and evolutionary thinker and educator. She is the co-founder and chairperson of the Foundation for Conscious Evolution, and someone that Buckminster Fuller called the best informed human now alive regarding futurism. In fact, philosopher Ken Wilber, the author of The Integral Vision, said that conscious evolution, the name of Barbara's seminal book and a concept that she has championed for decades, is one of the best 2 or 3 ideas of modern times. Today we're going to discuss her newly published book, Birth 2012 and Beyond, Humanity's Great Shift to the Age of Conscious Evolution. In it, Barbara and a dozen other visionaries, whom she calls the Welcoming Committee, articulate the urgency of the crises we face and their vision for a planetary rebirth. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be on.
Well, we're just so pleased to have you. You know, your book reminds me of a little sign I remember from many years ago. It was one of those little wooden signs you would put on your desk. It said, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, then you just don't understand the problem. Now, your book both highlights the problems we face and their urgency and suggests positive ways forward. You have taken on the monumental task of awakening a sleeping humanity. What was the spark that set you on this hero's journey?
The spark really was when the U.S. dropped the atomic bombs on Japan. And I was a 15-year-old, and I always was hopeful and thought everything was good, and the United States was good, and power was good, and so on. And I had this flashing insight that we could destroy everything with the power, which was a really new phenomenon. But the deeper insight that came through was, if we have all this power, what's the meaning of the power that's good? And by that I meant science and technology, industry, and of course 1945 was the bomb and the military. This is huge, enormous, unprecedented, godlike power coming in. What's it for? And so I started my search, and I ended up asking President Eisenhower, and he said he had no idea. And the church didn't know. The academic community didn't know. And I began to discover what it is through a whole understanding of the deeper meaning of the evolutionary story of creation.
In fact, it's been about 10 years since I last interviewed you, and at that time, we discussed your book, Conscious Evolution. Could you please describe the impulse of evolution and what you mean by conscious evolution?
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite question. Well, the impulse of evolution is the mysterious process through which we have come from no thing at all, from the mind of God, from the infinite intelligence, however you see it. From that, from source, evolving through the formation of energy, matter, galaxies, planets, earth, life, animal life, human life. And now that impulse is in you and me right this second, as we talk on this Skype, which is our impulse to further express our potential, to further give our gift, to further become who we truly are, or to evolve. And what's happened is that impulse is becoming conscious, not just in great religious leaders or magnificent geniuses, but in millions of us. And I'm calling this the birth of a co-creative humanity. I believe it's a life form like bacteria and single cells and animals and humans is the co-creative human. And I can feel that what happened with the bombs, as we gain more and more power to affect our own evolution, and more understanding of the story of evolution through cosmogenesis, science-based story, we began to realize that we are becoming conscious of evolution. We are affecting our own evolution. And therefore, we're moving from evolution by chance to evolution by choice.
Yes, I want to go into that a little further, but I get the sense that we're on an evolutionary flywheel that's going faster and faster and faster. And, even in the last 10 years, the terrain has totally changed. What changes have you seen that you think have had the greatest impact or potential impact on our society?
Well, I want to go back to the original question you just asked me, because that's the greatest impact. Mm-hmm. The greatest impact is that we can destroy our own life support system by our own actions. And out of that crisis comes the next greatest impact, is which we can affect our own evolution. And so the crises, the impact of all these crises, I would say, is the awakener. And deeper than that is the impact of all this emergent human potential and creative potential and scientific potential. And the growing edge that we're all on is, how do we connect that which is emergent? How do we join together that which is already coming forth in every field? And if you look at the breakthroughs in what I call the wheel of co-creation, in health, education, economics, science and technology, energy, and so forth, you will begin to see the outlines of an emerging world. And we saw Earth from space and the astronauts, but there were no people and no systems. Now, some of us are beginning to see the Earth as a living system with its extended systems, like the internet. We're talking here over Skype to people all over the world. That's an extended nervous system. Mm-hmm. And that extended nervous system, here's another breakthrough. I'm answering your question in a real way. The breakthrough would be that the nervous system of the planetary body is beginning to connect. And way beyond the gatekeepers of the world, the publishers and the major news media and so forth, people are connecting like this. And I think we're right at the threshold of a massive connectivity of what's creative and loving. That's the news.
We've seen that in the Arab Spring. We've seen that in the Occupy movements, that the technology is really causing people to come together in a way they never have been able to before.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Yeah. Now, you also say that we're at a critical tipping point between extinction or evolution, something that Irvin Laszlo, in his essay in your book, called a bifurcation between business and usual and timely transformation. Tell us what you see.
That's what I just described, is that we have hit a limit to growth in one phase of growth. We're overpopulating, we're polluting, we're destroying our environment, we're extincting species. That's the nature of the crisis. On the other side of that crisis, you see the possibility of a self-evolving, co-creative, planetary, indeed universal species. Mm-hmm. So the gap is, how do you get from this very dangerous time to that emerging state? And what I just tried to describe is the way we cross the gap from this phase to the other. The tipping point process, which isn't just a single thing, is the very rapid, nonlinear interaction and connection of what's emergent. I'm sorry to be a little bit dogmatic, but I feel that we're right. This is an important interview, that we're right on the market. We're right on the point here.
Mm-hmm. I think part of the problem is that we have this head in the sand attitude as a society, because it's so uncomfortable to think of the reality of where we're going. And so the mainstream media have kind of marginalized the people who are out there shouting from the mountaintops. And your approach has been a kind of refreshing change. It's been a very rational approach, showing how we are organized into a coherent and multidimensional system. And if we can just pull the bits together, then we have a chance of pulling ourselves through and consciously evolving to a positive future. Well, that's what's so important about what you're saying, Barbara.
Thank you. I really think so. And here's a simple phrase. Our crisis is a birth.
Mm-hmm.
Our story, that is to say the multi-billion-year story, is the story of the birth of a co-creative universal humanity on this little planet. Now, we don't know how many other planets have their story of giving birth to life and intelligent life, and maybe their own noospheres, their own thinking layers of Earth, like we're in right now. My own intuition is that our crisis is a birth, and the birth is now becoming conscious in many of us. And in the work that I'm doing in my book, Birth 2012 and Beyond, with the Shift Network and the Welcoming Committee and many, many others, is that we are working toward a planetary birth experience, where there would be enough of us. Stephen Dinan calls for 100 million of us awakening simultaneously to what's being born through us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we have to take and grow a tree from scratch. We are the growth. And as far as the media goes, I think it's been an infantile nervous system which has been able to communicate pain and put us to sleep. Mm. What's happening with internet and all these social media now and the 5.7 billion cell phones is that we have a new media. And you're quite right. The mainstream media is still in the old form, like most top-down structures are. So it apparently is that the top-down structures of existing civilization will not be the ones to make the shift. It's you and me who are making it. And how many millions of us are there? Well, enough.
Mm-hmm.